Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be creating some abstract stylized art using Cinema4d and Octane Render. Let's jump in. Okay guys, like I said, we'll be primarily using Cinema4d and Octane Render. However, I will make all of these assets available on the Patreon, so if you want this character already posed, if you want the clouds and the textures I'll be using, those will be available on the Patreon just in their regular format, so you can follow along whether you're using Cinema4d, Blender, Redshift, Octane, whatever render engine, whatever 3D program you want, you can find the assets on the Patreon. Like I said, if you know your render engine well enough, like you don't have to use Octane for this. We could easily create this look in Redshift. We could easily create this look in Cycles. So the first things first is like, don't get stuck that I'm using Octane Cinema4d here. We could do this in any program. Mostly what we're going to be focusing on is lighting and creating a complementary color palette through lighting. So that's all something I kind of wanted to focus on. Don't get stuck on the tools for this tutorial. You can do these with any tools. This is going to be more of the artistic and kind of the technical side. So what we'll do here is I first want to show you how I created this female. And well, I didn't even really create it, honestly. I'm just using a preset from Daz. So Daz is one of the first programs that I started using when I got into 3D because I, quickly just, it was a nice quick program. And then I found other programs that I liked more, such as Cinema4d. But I'm kind of getting back into it because I'm doing more character stuff. So I'm using the Genesis 8, which is a free Daz model that you can download. And I just put some clothes on it so we can stay family friendly and not get flagged. And one of the great things about Daz is it has this power pose, which you might not have it by default. So if you go to Window and then Panels, you'll see the power pose panel. And usually how I pose stuff in Daz is by manually moving it like that. But the power pose is a really great way to kind of just bypass a lot of the tedious work of posing a character. It's very, very hard to get a natural pose, and I think this power pose really helps with that. So I could like grab a joint right here and just easily rotate or move it. You still have to be careful to not get a natural look. So like I want to fix this hand right here. So what I can do is I'll take this and just close the fist right there. So you see how it takes all the joints. If I wasn't doing this power pose, then I'd have to manually go in here and rotate, manipulate each joint individually, which I still like to do, but I like to get the base shape with the power pose. Another quick tip, if you're trying to pose your character, I suggest starting from the hips and working your way outwards from the hips. So start the hips, you can work with the legs first if you want to, but don't start with like the fingers, because the fingers are going to be informed by the elbow, which is going to be informed by the shoulder, which is going to be informed by the chest, which is going to be informed by the core, which is going to be informed by the hips. So I always recommend just starting off with the hips. It's a really great place to start off, and it's a little bit harder to get a natural pose if you're working from the hips upwards. So that's my piece of advice. But what I did is I just posed our character out just by manipulating the joints. You can get some really cool, interesting looks. You can also get some very unnatural looks, but sometimes maybe you're going for something like horror or surreal and you'd want that kind of pose. So yeah, I just posed them out very quickly using the power poses primarily, and then going in and manipulating the joints individually. And then what I did is I just did a file export as an FBX, and then that takes us into Cinema4d and Octane, where I'll create a new project from here. And I have our character right here. Let's go ahead and go to the live viewer inside of Octane, and let's get started on kind of designing this project and texturing it. Okay guys, we're inside of Cinema4d Octane, and we're starting off with our scene from scratch. Something that's going to be very important is that we're in the path tracing kernel, and that we are going to definitely want to be in ACES, because we're going to be working with colored lights. And when you're working with colored lights, if you're not in ACES, you can get a lot of fringing and artifacts from all the different colors mixing together, because the sRGB color space really has issues with a wide variety of colors being combined together. So what I'll do here is I'll just do some quick simple settings. Let's just clamp our GI at 20, then I'll go to camera imager, and I have a video on how to do this look. If you want to get the ACES look, I have a video on how to install all that, but mine's already set up right there. So what we'll do is we'll go here and we'll pull up, and we'll start designing our character and the lighting. So the first thing I like to do is we'll jump in here. Let's go ahead and add in an Octane object tag to our Genesis 8 female. And this is because, I'll explain why we're doing this, is you can see she's actually fairly very low resolution as far as like polygons are concerned. So what you can see, we have this jagged look right here, and if I were to go to our display, and then if we were to go to lines right here, you can see very, very low poly. So what I want to do here is, I'm going to go back to our ground shading, is I want to add a subdivision. And I could do the subdivision through Cinema4d, but I can also do it through Octane using Octane tag. So I'll go to subdivision group, and I'll just add 2 subdivision levels. There we go, smoothed out, much, much higher typology. So what I'm going to do here is I'm not even going to worry about texturing or anything yet. I just want to focus on the lighting. So we'll go to our objects right here, and we'll add an HDRI environment. And then what we'll do is we'll add in a light, and then we'll add in a Octane targeted area light. What I'm going to do is I'm not going to select anything. So when I drop it in right here, Octane targeted area light, we'll get a null, or we should, except Octane sky was selected, so the Octane sky is, but it's fine. What we'll do is we'll just drop in a null. And then what we'll do is we'll grab, for some reason it didn't pull in the target either. We'll grab our target, and we'll add our target object to the null. And now our light will always be pointed at that null, so I can adjust the null and not have to really worry about so much. I can move the light around and always be facing the null, so I don't have to worry about rotating this light or anything. It's going to automatically do that. And if I move it off to the side, you can kind of see that right there. What I'm going to also do is go to quick shading here. I'm going to do a perspective. And something else I want to do too is, I think this is to scale. We can check real quick. Yeah, we're to scale, but for some reason I find I like working, especially if I'm doing a dramatic pose like this, I actually like to scale up my character and make him feel more like a statue. And this is because of, this works also inside of Octane because it's a physically based render engine. So it's going to actually, like, the light will behave differently at this scale than at another scale. Let's go ahead and drop in a Octane camera right here. And then what I'll do is we'll go to the camera view and zoom out and just find ourselves a nice pose. Of course, this lighting, everything's horrible right now, so it's going to be a little difficult, but right now I'm just looking strictly at our character. Let's rotate it. I like this view. And then what I want to do here as well is I'm going for more of a portrait type look. So that would be more around the 80 millimeters or 50 millimeters. That's very much a portrait style. So there we go. Something else I'm going to do just for this video is I'm going to switch to Octane Render. And you can do any kind of output resolution, but I'm going to do 1000 width by a 1350 height, and that is the Instagram resolution. So we're pretending we're doing this for Instagram. Then I just like to lock the ratio and double it. Whoops. And right there. And this is simply because when I do this, I have some more resolution here and I can zoom into the details. Now Instagram's not going to accept this high of a resolution, or it will. What it will do is accept that high resolution, but then downsample it and compress it. So if you're going to be posting to Instagram, you do not have to render at this high of a resolution. I just like to do it. So we'll do something like that right there. Already looking great. I'm going to go for a slightly different look than our thumbnail, I think, just so it's not boring. I'm not doing the exact same thing. What we'll do is we'll pull this light in right here. Yeah, I like this a lot. So already what's happening is we're not in the direct lighting kernel. You see in the direct lighting kernel, especially with the GI of none, we get no global illumination right here. So it's just hitting our object and we're not filling those shadows. So that's kind of why I was saying path tracing is very important, because it's going to kind of fill that in. I really like how soft this looks, and this is a really great start. What I'm going to do now is just create an Octane material. So we'll do a Octane, just a regular Octane material. I'm going to go and switch it to glossy, and I'm going to name this material body. And this is going to be the body of our figure. And what I'll do, just so we can, for demonstrational purposes, let's go ahead. I'm going to dock that node editor right there. And I'm going to pull in an RGB spectrum, and we're just going to turn it red for now. And this is just so we can see where this material is being applied. So if I drop it right there, it should drop onto the face. Sometimes it doesn't though, so what we'll do is, it looks like it accepted it here. We'll delete these materials as well because we're not going to need them. Oh, there we go. So Octane finally updated that, and we dropped it onto the face right there. And then we can do the whole body. If we want to do the whole body, you can just drop it right there. Sometimes you want to do the eyes separately, so you don't want to do the whole body. But I think for this video, this will be more than fine. So now that we have some lighting set up, which I'm not going to stick with this, but I'm going to go ahead and start calling this, we'll call this our key light right here. I always like to do at least usually around a 3-point lighting setup. So we'll do our key, our kicker, or our I don't know what else it's called. I like to call the kicker our backlight, hair light. Yeah, you could call it any one of those. And then we'll do our kicker, and I like to call it a kicker because it's kind of kicking your subject out from the background and into the foreground. So if we do something like that, you can see all these nice highlights that get brought in right here, and it creates a lot of separation. This could be problematic though because of what we're going to be doing. So what I'll do is I'll drop in our image plane. So let's do that right now. This is a great way to kind of cheat making clouds. I am going to be bringing in some clouds from my cloud pack that I designed, and they're actually simulated. I used Houdini to simulate them, and they're like a storm type cloud. I really like that look, and I couldn't find any, so I just created them myself. Also, I do have a tutorial on the Patreon on how to create the simulated storm clouds as well. So if you want to learn yourself, you can check out the Patreon. Let's go ahead and pull that up right there. And we want to get this to the background. Oh, this is another fun little cheat we could do as well with this plane is we can add a target tag to it. And then we could make the target object the camera. And it should be facing our camera, and it is, but it's on the wrong axis. So we just changed this axis right here from Z minus or Z plus will work, and now we'll have this facing our camera, and this is going to be great. It's going to give us a proper perspective because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating a new material, and then I'm going to be dropping in some clouds that I photo bashed together. It's kind of a sunset look. So I'm going to name this clouds. And then I'm going to pull them in. We'll go to our node editor, and we'll go to our emission right here. And let's go ahead and do a black body. We'll do texture emission. We'll see which one we'll want to do, but we'll start with texture emission. We'll bring that in. This is just some clouds that I photo bashed. Like I said, it looks like it is upside down, so we could fix that through scaling or rotating, but I have a feeling that's because we did Z plus. No? Y plus. Let's go back to our view. It looks like Octane. Oh, there we go. It's finally updating. Let's do Z minus. Nope. We definitely want to do Z plus. What I can do now is I could just rotate it myself. And we have our clouds back there, and it's a really nice look. It's a nice color palette. It's if you want to create your own photo bash, all you got to do is just get some sunset clouds. That's I just took a lot of clouds at sunset and kind of bashed them all together to get this look. I'm actually really liking this color palette, which I wasn't even going for, but I definitely see potential here. Let's go ahead and take this key light and pull it up and pull it forward some. We can include this in our image, like right here. All we need to do, and this is the great thing I love about CG, is we can make this light invisible. So we'll go to visibility, turn off shadow visibility, and turn off camera visibility as well. But there's a lot of things we could tackle here. One of the first things that I want to do though is I'm going to drop in some volumetrics. So I'm going to go to our Octane right here, and we'll go to our Octane VDB volume, and I'm going to pull in some VDB clouds from our website. So guys, like I said, if you want these clouds, they're going to be in the Patreon, but also if you want a full pack of clouds, which these clouds, all of them have been uploaded to, you can check out my cloud pack. I'm constantly updating it with new clouds I create inside of Houdini. I'm constantly experimenting with designing clouds in Houdini because it's a very fun program that I like, and creating clouds is very fun to me. So if you want to check it out, it's a growing pack of clouds. I think there's over 100 right now, and the storm clouds, I haven't even updated the website yet, so they're not even shown yet. Hopefully by the time you're seeing this video, we'll have them updated on the website. But yeah, you'll see them there below. It's a growing pack of clouds to check out. The cool thing about these clouds is they're simulated. So let me pull this in. It's going to give you a very different look. We'll pull this cloud right here. And of course, you can use any type of open VBD cloud. It does not have to be mine. I just spend a lot of time and like these clouds a lot. So I'm going to be using them. The first thing you want to do is just do a fog medium. All CG programs like to handle volumes or VDB files differently. Octane does a density and volume step length method. This is very simple actually. The density is just representing the density, and the volume step length is actually representing the resolution of the rendering of the cloud. So the lower this goes, the higher resolution your cloud becomes. It'll actually start to appear more in your scene too. But as a consequence to that, it's going to take longer to render. So I usually don't like to go below 2. And most of the time it's more than enough resolution. Honestly, 4 is probably a really good starting place as well. Of course, I always change the absorption and scattering pretty high, and this just helps further define the cloud. This cloud definitely needs to be scaled up, so you can do that by switching your input unit. So if we do kilometers, I'm American, so like some of these, yeah, that's way too big. It's actually humongous. Okay, these clouds do come in bigger than usual too. Let's do meters. We'll go back to meters on this one. Where did it go? Okay, it's back to small size. And then of course you could just do regular scale right here, which is what I usually end up doing so I don't confuse myself with units that I'm not familiar with. 10, 10, and 10. That looks pretty good. That might be too big. But yeah, this gives us a really nice look right here. Let's go back. I want to see some more of this cloud. So let's do 5, 5, and 5. Awesome. And this is just kind of helping us blend our background in, and you'll see we're going to be able to take advantage of this cloud and its scattering to add some really interesting color into our scene. So we have our kicker and our key. I'm going to do another one as well, another cloud. I'm just going to copy the same one because I'm going to be lazy about it. And I'm going to kind of add this to the bottom of our character. So kind of like she's floating in them. Yeah, that looks great. Something that we definitely need to do with this cloud, 100%, is increase the density. Let's do something like 400. What we could do also is do 100, and then I'm gonna take this down. And then another thing we can do, I'm gonna turn off our second cloud so it's not slowing us down. Yeah, I like this wispy look. It's really cool. If we wanted to, we could also, just for you Octane users, and Redshift has something very similar to this, is you can do your absorption and scatter mapping. So if we wanted to, we can multiply. This is essentially like multiplying your density or remapping your density inside of Redshift. So we'll do 2 and 2. Let's do 5 and 5. We'll scale it up. Yeah, that looks nice. I'm really loving the outcome of this. That might be a little too much. Let's go back to our medium and let's just crank up the density. There we go. There's our volume step length. So we had to go a little bit lower than expected. And I'm just going to find a nice kind of position for this cloud. That looks good. And then what we'll do is we'll go back to the coordinates, and I'm going to make it even smaller, 3, 3, and 3. And then just bring it up some. Yeah, that looks really nice. I like that look a lot, actually. So we got this cloud in the foreground and we have this one in the background, kind of creating this interesting look for us. Another thing we can do is we could add an HDRI if we wanted to fill in the shadows. However, it feels bright enough. I think this back plane right here of clouds, this texture emission is doing a lot of work. It's helping fill in those shadows, so I'm not too worried about it. But if we wanted to, we could increase the power to like 5. And see that's definitely overpowering. So we'll go back to 2. I like 2 actually. I'm not sure why it turned our character white, unless it's just so bright. Yeah, we'll start playing with our character. Yeah, okay, so here's the thing. If you have a really bright background like this, like what I have right now, you want to create separation with your subject. One of the ways you can do that is usually your eyes like to look to the brightest part of the scene, but if there's a lot of bright parts in the scene, then they'll usually go to the darkest part of the scene. So we could draw interest to our subject by making him darker. That's just one of the options, but okay, it looked like that was just a glitch. But for now, what I'll do is I'll make him semi-dark, but not too dark. And then I'm going to go back to our clouds and probably bump this texture emission down a bit. We're at 100. Let's do 50. Yeah, that looks reasonable right there. We are also in ACES, so if we go to low dynamic range, we're already clipping. That's another reason I like to work in ACES. Let's go ahead and start coloring these lights. So let's do our key. Maybe we'll create kind of like in the other one I made, a semi-sunset type vibe. And this is how I did it. There's a lot of ways you can do this, by the way. You could go texture and then RGB. But what I like to do is I'm always in the node editor. So I'll just go here. And then I like to pull an RGB spectrum. And now we can color our light. Yeah, so look at that. Like we're already getting this sunset vibe right here. I'm not going to pay too much attention to our character. I'm just going to look at these clouds and see what we get from him. Yeah, I like that a lot. Now we'll go to our kicker, which is supplying a lot of light in the scene. And then you could also just do it. I'll just show you the other way to do it. Go here, C4d Octane, and then this is why I don't like to do it. There's so many. RGB spectrum. It should be in alphabetical order. There it is. And now if you want to, I'm just going to do it through the node editor, but you could do it through there as well. As you see, we'll have our RGB spectrum for our other light as also. Yeah, so look at this. Another great reason to be an ACES is we can do this. I just want to show you again how you can start getting these like fringing and tearing inside of sRGB. So like ACES, much tamer. I like it a lot. This is a fun, interesting look. It's a lot different than the other render, but it's still fun. It's still like something that is interesting. This is how I create that sunset look right there. We can kind of go a little bit more orange. And then if we wanted to, I see a lot of warm tones, so reds and oranges. But I want some cool tones also, so I'm going to pull our kick light, and then I'm going to name this just blue, because it's going to just be a blue light. I'm going to take the tag off of our blue light, and then we'll go to our view right here. So what I'll do is I'm going to affect our emission by actually coloring a bit with this light. So I'm going to rotate this light right here, and I'm going to point it at the background. And this is, again, you can do this in all render engines, and you can already see what it's doing. Because this is not a black body emission, it's a texture emission, and we still have our diffuse, roughness, bump, and normal all checked, it's going to behave as if it's an emissive material, so we can still get reflections off of it, which is interesting. So something like this, what we could do with this blue light is I can change this color to a blue color. And you can kind of see how that's influencing our scene. Now, blue light, you're going to have to make it a lot brighter. So we'll go back and we'll increase the power. Yeah, so we get this like washed out interesting look. That might have been too much power. I like that right there a lot. Not in love with this color here, but this is always something we can fix inside of Lightroom very easily. I'm not gonna lie, I really did like this right here, but we definitely will need to turn the power down some. Let's do 50. Like, so Octane's a spectral render engine. Unlike Redshift or even Cycles, I believe, they're RGB render engines. So they sample for red, green, and blue. Octane is sampling for the red, the green, the blue, and the wavelength of the light. So Octane is having to take 4 samples, while other render engines can take 3. It makes it a little bit slower in certain scenarios. However, I think Octane's very fast. But it can give you more, right off the bat, more realistic results, which is another fun reason I like to use Octane. However, I know a lot of you have been asking me, because I've used Redshift before in the past. I am going to be using Redshift a lot more in the future because I'm doing some production stuff with Redshift. But for now, like, I've just mostly been focusing on Octane just because it's fun and simple to get renders out of. Okay, let's... the color palette is beautiful. This is a great render. Very happy with it. I think what we could do is play around a little bit with our subject, and I'll make her a little bit lighter. Now you can see as we brighten it, it's going to absorb and reflect more light towards the camera. If it's completely dark, it's purely reflections. There's no diffuse data in here. As we pull it up, we start adding diffuse data to the scene. We could also try to do a specular. It looks a little creepy, I'm not gonna lie. But if you wanted to go this route, just go to your transmission right here, take your transmission up all the way, and then add a medium in. I like to do a random walk medium. It's a very great scattering algorithm. And then add an albedo, so add an RGB spectrum. Then what you need to do is probably mess with your density, take it down. It's a little too much. Let's pull it. Oh, shoot. Let's go to something like 20. So we're getting like a nice scattering effect. Also, you can do a float right here into your radius, and you can kind of change the radius of this scatter. So right there looks nice. But I will stick with a glossy material, but you can go this subsurface material route also. We already have so much scattering in the clouds. I think we need something that's more of a hard surface. Glossy materials don't support mediums, so we won't be doing a random walk medium. But now I'm going to show you how to add some detail to this to our subject. A great way I like to add detail is by using Quixel Bridge. So let's go and open that up. So you can see we have Quixel Bridge right here, and I'm just going to go to my imperfections, and I want to find some that I like. What I'm looking for here maybe is just a grungy surface. We could go scratched route. Here's a grunge. That might look good. And the real reason what I'm really looking for here is something to bring the detail out of our subject. So honestly, this looks great, but I don't necessarily like how uniform the reflections are. So we can break up these reflections with this roughness right here. And the great thing is this is already UV mapped, so I don't have to do any kind of projections or anything. I will bring in a transform node, and I'm gonna scale it down just a bit. So let's take this, and we'll do something like 0.5 maybe, just so we have like some detail, but we don't see too much. Yeah, that looks really nice. It really broke up our reflections and gave us a nice look. And then we'll zoom out some. Now this is a little too diffuse for me. So what we'll do is we'll pull in an Octane gradient. You could also just, instead of like downloading a scratch file or whatever it is, an imperfection file, if you wanted to, you could just do it with noise as well. I like the imperfection files though, because they usually tend to be more realistic. Sometimes you can achieve some of these looks through noise, at least easily. So there we go. As we pull our black values up, we're getting some of the glossiness back, which I don't want to get that much back. Maybe we don't get full glossiness, but we get like 16%, and then we pull that up, and we don't get full diffuse, but we get like 56% diffuse. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, that looks nice. It's not super textury, which is, I'm not really going for that in this. I'm more going for just a nice breakup of reflections. Something we could definitely do is just increase the brightness of our diffuse. And our subject is a lot more prominent in this render. We could also add a bump map. So let's just go to our bump right here. Let's do an octane gradient. Always like to control all of these image type data inputs with a gradient. That's just how I do it. We could do an octane noise. We'll put that into our texture. Again, you could just use a bump texture for this as well. So you can already see we're getting some detail. This needs to be worked with. I did find that when working with noise, like, I just find projections to be the best. So you don't want to use a box projection on noise. You actually want to use the XYZ to UVW projection, texture projection space. That's because that's the space that the Cinema4d noise works in. And also, it just works the best. The box, you can kind of get some weird artifacts, I guess you could say, where it gets very sharp. You get a very sharp cutoff on the noise, and that sometimes comes through in the renders. Let's increase our octaves in Omega. So increasing our octaves is essentially going to make more calculations of the noise within itself, so it will give us more detail. And increasing Omega is kind of, you can think of it as roughness, for lack of a better comparison. Yeah, so we're already getting some cool detail on our surface, on our lady. So what we'll do is we'll just do a 0.5 right here, and that looks nice. Actually, you know, I didn't really want to go for this. Like, I wanted some smoothness, but I like that a lot. Yeah, it's really nice. It could be too intense, so what we could do is just take our white values and pull them down some. And that way we keep some of that glossiness. We'll pull it up just a little bit more. So it kind of looks like she's made of stone. In this, we could also switch our oh, by the way, this is a great tip. If you click solo node, well, that sometimes happens also. Yeah, so sometimes it will crash, but if you solo node, you usually will just get a black and white readout of just that part of the texture. It's much similar to the redshift output to surface that they have as well. So I'm actually really happy with this, and I like the look. We could play around with it a little bit more, but I think this is a pretty good stopping point. If you're going to export this with the intention of compositing, then if you go to your export settings right here, we'll go to our Octane render, do it as the HDR float. Don't do sRGB color space at all. You do ACES CG. That's a good color space. It's smaller than 2065-1, which is absolutely outrageously huge. ACES CG, like, I recommend using that one. It's going to be a smaller file size, but it's more than enough color to composite with. Now, if you want to just export sRGB and post it straight to the Instagram, or even take it into Lightroom, then what I would do is do OCIO, select color space, and then we will go to output, because we're outputting this, and we're going to do an sRGB output. So that way, when you render this out, it's going to render out just an sRGB version of it. So I'll go to our render settings right here, and then I'll go to our output. I'll stick with this high resolution. That's more than enough resolution. If you want to do AOVs, go back into ACES, and then you can enable them here, and then you could do beauty pass. You could do, definitely always save your beauty instead of having to rebuild it. Especially like in a scene like this, it's not necessary to rebuild. But we could pull our volume out separately and apply certain effects just to the volume, which is really nice. Or even, let's see, what else do we have here? We have our post settings, so we could apply certain effects just to the post. So we can go into our post, camera imager, enable it. and then we could go to the post-processing, enable, and then we could add some bloom and just see like directly what that's doing. That might look really interesting. Just kind of blew it out a lot actually. Something like that looks good. Add some glare, and then you could take your post into After Effects or Photoshop and just only apply certain effects to your post. So let's say you want to make your post brighter. If it's baked into that beauty pass, you won't be able to do it alone, but now you could. So that's all stuff you could do as well. Just make sure if you're not going to rebuild your beauty pass to use a subtractive compositing workflow. That's pretty much it. Oh, another thing too, just a little quick tip. All these different compression methods, I believe it becomes lossless, which means you're losing color data. You're losing data in your image. I think PRX24 is like the cutoff. But it's nice because the way they did this is really cool. This will be like the most compressed, so the smallest file, and then up here will be the least compressed, the largest file, and then right here's the crossover from lossy to lossless. And you can even see we have like zip compression right here, so we could do a zip compress on our EXR. Just make sure to enable it and save them. But for me, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to do any kind of multi-pass compositing. I'm just going to send this over to Lightroom later. I have a video on the Patreon also on how I like to post-process my renders in Lightroom. Photoshop is great for multi-pass if you're going to be doing multi-pass, but most of the time I can get close enough to where I'm going for. If it's just like a small image for Instagram, I usually don't mess with the multi-passes. So what I'll do is I'll just go to Octane Render, save. I like to do 16-bit TIFFs, just more color data to work with. TIFFs are in great file size. They're great file type. They're compatible with a lot of programs. It's more information than PNG. Definitely don't do RAW. I don't think Lightroom even accepts OpenEXR at this point, so I don't mess with that either. The OpenEXR is also designed for the linear color space, which we're not going to be outputting in. We're outputting in the sRGB non-linear color space, because you see output sRGB. So there you go. That's it. And then all that's left to do is you don't need you can change your buffer to 16-bit. We don't need that. And then what we can do is just make sure we're saving out to a file path. And once we hit render, if you did the proper OCIO output, it should match your live viewer. So when you click between the picture view and the live viewer, you should see no color shift, no tone mapping or anything on top of it. So that's pretty much it. Thanks guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I will be uploading these assets to the Patreon. Also, you can check out the Cloud Pack, as well as if this was maybe an overwhelming tutorial for you, if I was moving too fast, you could check out the Octane Render Masterclass. Well, I kind of break everything down in more detail and dive much more into some more technical aspects of rendering to grow your artistic skills. So you can check out the link below. I hope y'all enjoyed the tutorial. Let me know if you want to see more of this style. This was very fun to create. I had a great time working in Daz. And that's pretty much it. So guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Peace out.